I should have up. I don't. So it's Murray to Carcassonne, and it is 169.3 kilometers. And this is not the stage that I expected. So there's a big break that goes off pretty much from the gun. And I was licking my lips because it features Wout van Aert, MVDP, and Milan, as well as a bunch of other guys. Trek seemed to miss it. A big crash happened at the back, and this featured all of the favourites except for Poggy. Alaphilippe looked like he was not doing well, but he comes back. He must have had some pretty good painkillers because he comes back later. However, later, I think they were so good that we might talk about him later because, yeah, he seemed, I don't know, something was going on with his painkillers when he crossed the line. So anyway, first sprint, MVDP seems to win the first sprint from the break, according to what I can see, which is interesting. I don't know what happened to Milan. It's one of those days where there's groups literally everywhere. I think there were about 8 groups on the road, and it was really difficult to follow. So I'm going to slip my first plug in for the Domestique here. I was following their live blog, and that was giving me some help trying to keep track of who was where and what was going on. So pretty good if you're trying to work out on a day like today who is actually in which group. So with 96 Ks to go, Alaphilippe puts the burners on. No one knew who it was for, but it was for Stora. And out of nowhere, he goes off with Sturven and Simmons to bridge to the break. The breaks gap is pretty average, and Lutsenko takes a second. And first and second KOMs of the day. First group splits. From here, everything is sort of everywhere, but the key people are Stora, Simmons, Rodriguez, Mohoric, who I didn't even know was in the tour up to this point, Campenaerts, Powerless, and Wellens. And there's a chasing group, but they don't really feature. So Stora attacks the group of Campenaerts, Simmons, and Wellens going on to the last climb. Simmons seems to be getting the shits with Wellens because Wellens at this point seemed to be having an absolute dog of a day. And Simmons tries to drop Wellens up the Pas du Sam. And they start playing silly buggers with about 50 kilometers to go. Groups are, as I said, everywhere. Rodriguez, Vlasov, Bargil, and Lutsenko are chasing. Powless was by himself, and there's a 5th group with MVDP and Van Aert. Wellens is becoming the breakaway aficionado, though, and he drops the hammer coming over the Pas de Sun, and no one can go with him. And this is the last time that anyone sees Wellens because he just stays away. Same goes, the group's playing silly buggers at about 22 Ks to go. A chase group that's blown up comes back together. The gap continues to bloat. Campenaerts at this point looked like he was sitting at the back to provide Van Aert a lead out if he was able to get across. And then at the end, it is Wellens crossing the line first. The second place is Victor Campenaerts, who ends up attacking towards the end and going solo, followed by Julian Alaphilippe, who somehow, and this is why I was referring to the painkillers, and I'm just going to get my dickhead out of the way here.
You stole mine.
Yeah, Julian Alaphilippe crossing the line and celebrating like he just had his first child for 3rd place. I have no idea where he came from, to be fair. The last time I'd seen Julian Alaphilippe was when Stora attacked off his lead out. So I don't know where he came from. He sort of just phantomed into that group somehow. But yeah, he gets my dickhead of the day for celebrating 3rd place. But yeah, that's the stage. There's not too many changes. The only major change, well, I mean, it's not major, but it seems like Rodriguez has passed Healy in the general classification. So I think Healy is now 10th and Rodriguez is 9th. And Healy is at threat from Jordan Jagar and Ben O'Connor. Well, not really Ben O'Connor, of dropping out of that top 10. So yesterday we talked about how good it was for EF. They were going to be my second dickheads of the day for just not having the ability to hold that break. But I guess their team's not really built for it. So anyway, that's the stage. Did I miss anything?
No, I think you covered most of it there. Like just to To touch on that one that you finish with, this is the time of the tour that we just see so many teams jumping on the front to chase, and you have to then open Domestique live and the results sheet to work out why is this team all of a sudden on the front doing all the pulling. And yeah, you can get situations where you've got the stage winner from today, Tim Wellens, up the road, and you think surely he would be better suited to helping UAE control the stage from behind. It was quite a hectic stage. There were some crosswinds in the beginning. There was a lot going on. Pogacar managed to miss all of the crashing and was always looking pretty comfy at the front of the bunch. But you might think, why risk it and send one up the road? Well, often the leading team just doesn't have to do that much work at this point in the race. So in this case, UAE were definitely controlling so much as to stop more riders attacking on those first few climbs of the day, but not at any point to try and bring back the break. And noticeably, like, I just thought, how good is Tim Wellens and Victor Campenaerts? I think if the shoe were on the other foot and Campenaerts is in the team leading the GC and can play that card the whole day that Wellens did of, I've got the yellow jersey behind, I don't actually want to be here, I'm just here just in case this stays away, you guys better keep it away, which is essentially what Wellens looked like he was saying most of the time. He had the best pain face on the back of the bunch, on the back of the breakaway, which the commentators picked up on, that he wasn't actually suffering, but he made it look like he was, and he did a convincing job, clearly, because the others didn't seem worried enough about him before he made that big attack. And not only how good is he, that's his part-time job for this stage, or not even part-time, just his Christmas casual job of occasionally just maybe one or two stages, go for a stage win if you feel like it and you're in the right spot. His main job is supporting the yellow jersey, and he's done a bloody good job of that. But yeah, how strong is he that he can do that on his days off, supporting the yellow jersey, but also how smart is he that he knew exactly when to attack there over the top of that client, knew to just put in a crazy 1 or 2 minute effort there when you kind of think, okay, this is 50K from the finish. Why go this deep now? He knew exactly what he was doing, because as soon as he had that gap, conveniently all the riders behind at some point in that period tried to close the gap and just couldn't. So he also had to have the legs, and then had the gap to ride away to the finish from there, because as we've seen and as we spoke about a bit yesterday, that cooperation behind is never going to be as good as the single rider out front by themselves just committing 100%. And he just never looked like being caught after that first few minutes when he was away.
No, and a couple of things. Number one, the cooperation in that group today, it was shithouse, that second group. They were all over the shop. I would have really, I've been in that situation in some crit races, and I get the shit so hard. I end up yelling at everyone. I go full Remco Evenepoel on them, which we need to address Remco in a little bit. But one thing that was brought up to me by our producer, Bram, was that tomorrow is Belgian Independence Day. So if you have a look at the top 10 today, there is Tim Wellens first, Victor Campenaerts second, Wout van Aert fourth, and Jasper Stuyven seventh. And then Thibaut Nice is 12th. And I think all of those guys, I think this will mean even more for Tim Wellens. Victor Campenaerts being on the podium as well just before Belgian Independence Day. I think that's also something that might have been motivating them. And if you have a look at the way that UAE has been racing with Wellens, he has kind of not been there the last couple of days. And I wonder whether there was almost the permission to go for this. It is a stage that they would have said, this suits you. It's a stage we don't care about so much. We've done really well in the time trial. I wonder whether they did say to him yesterday, you can save your legs a little bit to try and go for it tomorrow.
Yeah, it would be interesting. I think you're right, he has been missing a little bit by his standards for the last few days. And I would be surprised looking at him today if that was purely if it was not by choice that he was missing, in that I think he would have made the conscious decision to sit up. There was one or two times he got caught out behind a crash, or he did a mechanical yesterday or the day before, which just meant that he was basically out of the race when it was really on and not going to be able to get back into it. But to have Niels Pollitt doing these massive long pulls on the mountains when you would expect Wellens to still be comfortable in the wheel and he wasn't there, kind of shows that they might have been saving him for this. If they were, that's pretty ballsy on their part to just say we're going to leave one of our best riders and save him to go for a stage win, but clearly paid off. And I think actually the amount that this team will gain, not only from the stage win and a little bit of pocket money, which for most of these guys is going to be nothing, more just the morale on the team bus of, okay, like, yeah, we expect Tade to go out and win every second stage because that's what he does. And we're used to just dropping him off 50K from the finish and letting him do his thing. But to have one of the helpers get their chance to shine and get that, and to see also on the radio, it was so cool to hear how excited Pogačar was for Wellens, having him in front. That atmosphere amongst that team, and tonight at dinner and tomorrow the whole rest day, it's the perfect timing for them. They're going to be over the moon. And like, yeah, from in their team bus, I think all the staff are going to be having a pretty good night tonight and a pretty relaxed day tomorrow, knowing that they've got a pretty firm grasp on the yellow jersey, and then even their helpers are able to get their chance to win a stage like today.
Yeah, and you could even see in the way that Poggy crossed the line, he had this massive shit-eating grin on his face. He was so happy for his mate. So one thing that we often talk about is sort of the morale and the vibe around other teams, and one that we don't often talk about because we don't get to see many glimpses into it is the way that UAE is as a unit. They look robotic almost in the way that they go about things, but you can see there's been a couple of glimpses today on the radio with Pogačar. Halfway through the stage, he's calling up and asking, how's Wellens going in the breakaway. So I think they are a unit that does, even though they don't give many glimpses into it, the glimpses that we are getting here seem to be quite positive. Now, granted, they only give the radio stuff that they want to give, and I think they've got quite a bit of control over what they can and can't release, but it is interesting and does seem like a place that's probably a pretty good place to be at.
Yeah, and it's so easy to be super happy and everyone be friendly when you're succeeding, which they are at the moment. So that's definitely a massive part of it. And like, it doesn't matter which group of guys you have together. If you win in every race, you're going to be pretty happy. If you lose in every race, it's going to be hard to have that same morale. But they are clearly a tight-knit unit. These guys go to training camps together for a long time. They race together a lot of the year to have that camaraderie together. And clearly just Poggy likes these guys as well. Like, that's not faked. That's not put on. He likes working with them. They like working with him, clearly. And yeah, all of their bank accounts like working with each other, I think. Yeah. So everything's working synchronously together in that respect. But yeah, they're clearly just guys that work well together. It's interesting that crew that they've got, like, you hear the rumors about Poggy not wanting to have Ayuso in that mix, despite the fact that he is definitely someone that would be there longer in the mountains than some of these guys. And I don't know how much of those rumors are true and how much of it is just people jumping into Twitter and presuming things. But like, that is maybe a big part of it, is just having that everyone liking each other. There's no other ego trying to step on his toes, and Poggy is quite happy to see his teammate that is going to help him whenever he needs go for the win today. And they've just built that unit so in that way that everyone knows their place in the team. People know they still get their opportunity if it presents itself, and then that's just built to keep that morale really high, even if it means technically on paper it's not your best 8 riders for the rest.
Totally. So one thing that I think we do need to address is yesterday we were having a bit of a chat about Remco. Now, I cut a reel for that and I put that up, and that has received, let's just say, mixed reviews. And I think we should potentially address this. So a lot of the criticism has been about the fact that Remco is very sick. And I can't see anything to support that, nor can you, I believe. The team's not put anything out. I saw I should know this. Who's the bloke that owns the team? the manager.
Patrick Lefevre, but I don't think he owns it
Yes.
anymore. But yeah.
Anyway, he was saying, he had an interview on SBS at the start, and he didn't say that Remco was sick. In fact, he's a guy that wears his heart on his sleeve, and having a look at his demeanor, I think he has the shits about it a little bit. And I mean, not reading into too much about that, he seems to have the shits about everything anyway.
Yeah, and Patrick Lefevre is probably not the person to go to ask when riders do have illnesses or injuries, because he is very much in the camp of, I don't give a shit, just go out and ride your bike as hard as you can. Which, yeah, we should note that we are not by any means in that camp. But yeah, you just touched on it there. A lot of the comments and criticism behind our take, and it's good that we got these because we both agreed on the matter, so it's good to have some different opinions on it. But for a lot of firstly, if you don't know what we're talking about, just do yourself a favor, go back and listen to yesterday's Dickhead of the Day segment at the end. But the rationale behind other people is, he's really sick, he doesn't want to jeopardize the rest of his season. And yeah, we just don't have any news that he's sick. And I get that he's carrying some niggles from his really unfortunate injury in the off season where he was doored by a car. And that is, if that's what's causing him the grief, again, completely fair. I'd be really surprised if it is, because he has shown that he's had no issues. He hasn't had no issues, but he's shown that he's been able to ride a bike bloody well between that happening and now. And he did win his first race in the middle of April. So it would be really strange if that suddenly means he's had to pull out of the race at the end of July. And then, yeah, another point is we are completely speculating, but if you haven't noticed, that is the whole premise of the podcast, and what we are all doing at home is we don't ever get the full picture of the story, and we just have to kind of guess what's going on behind closed doors. But yeah, really interesting points of view, just stating that, yeah, he's sick, he should pull out, when we just don't have any information that he actually is sick.
Yeah, I'm just a flog on a pod. Like, I literally have never been, like, I've never even sniffed the ass of a pro cyclist. So, like, but like, you've got some pretty big chops here, Cyrus. It's not like you're some flog on a pod.
For me, I was just thinking, okay, do I have a leg to stand on here? And unfortunately, there was someone that raised a good point in this regard too, is it doesn't matter about our personal experiences, it's what he's going through at the moment. And that is very true. And we don't actually know. We should state that quite clearly. We're only working on what we've got. But for me, unfortunately, this is one area that I probably have more experience of Remco at, is being out the arse of the peloton and having a shit day and just trying to get round and get through for the next stage. But I want to, before put this to the judge, jury, and executioner before we're publicly executed. So there is precedence here for Remco, and it is in a Grand Tour. And funnily enough, I had this in my head, and I thought, I'm going to look at what stage it was.
The gravel stage last year. Is that it?
Yeah, the gravel stage last year. No, I've got even closer. So Volta a España, yeah, different race completely, and different things that happened in the lead up. Stage 13, Volta a España 2023. Remco comes in to the stage in third place on GC and loses 27 minutes. And that stage, funnily enough, finished on Col de Tourmalet. The climb that he was dropped on at the start of yesterday was Col de Tourmalet, so he's not going to have a great relationship with that. But for those that don't remember, stage 13, Volta a España, he loses his GC position, just suffers through the whole day. He has teammates around him the whole day. I do remember distinctly his teammates waiting for him. The next day, stage 14, he comes out and wins solo. And then he wins another stage and places second in another stage of that Volta a España throughout the rest of the week. So I think a lot of people jumping in saying this is a ridiculous take, that he should push through. It's push through, and that there's no value in pushing through. I think the potential winning a few stages of the Tour de France is pretty good value, and I don't think Remco's beyond that. I know his main goal was to finish on the podium, but for me, I wasn't annoyed at the fact that he pulled out, because I wanted to see him suffer through this stage and then suffer through the rest of the Tour, because we all have to suffer and he's the best guy and he should have to suffer like the rest of us. Not at all. it's because he has potential to come out and repay the work of his teammates, repay the team by winning stages later in the tour. Yeah, it's not going to be the same GC, but yeah, we as we said, we don't know. Like and you don't know whether you recover in the same way at all. But I think we've seen before he's been able to do it, and I believe that he, having got through today's stage and got through a rest day, there's potential that he can recover and then come out and win stages in the final week.
And just to put his own words to those people, like, you have to have balls to race bikes, I think is a direct quote, or I'm paraphrasing slightly, but that is Remco last year at the gravel stage in criticism of the fact that Jonas Vingegaard would not work with Remco and Pogacar at a point where Vingegaard was coming off a crash 6 weeks ago. So it is a bit rich to say, oh, you know, it's not fair to come for him. He has, to an extent, put a bit of a target on his back. And also, aside from that, there are these rumors floating around about him looking at going to Red Bull. You know, this could potentially be the last time that we see Remco Evenepoel in a quick step jersey at the Tour de France. So it's just, I don't think it's the best look. And that's all we were saying yesterday. And yeah, at the end of the day, it's funny that people come on and say you shouldn't speculate about things while purely speculating about things. And also, yeah, I don't know, like, what are you listening to pods and looking at reels about people with opinions about if you don't like people having opinions about things? Like, if you only want me to comment on what is seen factually in the race,
watch the race.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what you want from me, man.
Anyway. No, we are very much couch critics, and yeah, I am completely happy with being told that I'm just sitting on the couch watching, because that is 100% what I'm doing for this race. And yeah, we do not know the full story of everything that happens in every race. I'm sure we'll get the full story later on about why Alaphilippe didn't know that he was racing for third rather than first, but that is the whole point of why we're watching, and we're just, it's good that we've got that debate going, and good that we can get some interaction that way. And the one good thing to come of it was I did like seeing people prioritizing rider health, which I think is really important, because so often we just think that these guys are gladiators in an arena. I've been there myself, where you just think, hang on, these people don't give a shit about our health at all. They just want to see us out there suffering, which by no means we want to see that. If it is a health thing and there is any risk of long-term damage, then by all means prioritize health, and we would be in complete agreement with that as well.
And the last thing that I'll say on this is, just so people know, yesterday I was on the trainer. I had a 2-hour session. It was some efforts in zone 3 and then a long session in zone 2. My ass was sore. I had 40 minutes left. I did 10, and then I just hopped off and cancelled it 30 minutes early. So I am in no way saying that I am any better than Remco Evenepoel. But again, I don't get a paycheck for doing it, and I'm also not striving to be one of the best cyclists in the world. So yeah, I don't know, wherever you want to land on that. Anyway, the other thing that I wanted to talk about that is slightly controversial, and I am actually kind of sick of hearing, I've been hearing a bit in regards to Tadej's performances on the climbs, particularly in regards to yesterday. The doping word has come up again, and
every year at the Tour without fail.
I just wanted to jump in here and say, as much as we've just said we're allowed to speculate, I'm a bit sick of this speculation about Tadej Pogacar doping in the face of zero evidence and no one in the peloton that seems to not like the guy. And if people knew he was on the gear, I think there would be, at this point, whispers in the same way that he who shall not be named had plenty of whispers going around about him. It's, you know, there is not a sniff from within the peloton that I can see that gives any credence to these rumors at all. And it is a bit frustrating that we are trying to move on from a situation. Yeah, if there was evidence outside of the numbers, but the numbers, as have been explained so many times, you were comparing a doping era. They're talking about Tadej's times being better than any other period in cycling history. Those times that you're comparing to, the bikes were shit.
Yeah.
And the brakes were shit, and the training was shit, and the nutrition was shit. Everything was shit in comparison to what we have now.
Yeah. So I don't know. I wouldn't say I don't like talking on this as much as other cyclists don't like talking on it, because for me, I completely understand why we still have to ask the questions, but I don't like the fact that we're asking questions of Tadej in this instance. So I said on this topic, I wrote an article for Escape Collective earlier in the year, and I'm just a bit of an insight into what goes on behind the closed doors. And I said in that I'm the perfect person to come out in the perfect situation, if there was doping in the pro peloton, to come out now and say, everyone's doping, all the top guys are on the gear. I was clean. That's why I was shit and I didn't get a new contract. And that's why I couldn't get good results against these guys at the top level. Perfect situation for me, because as someone that hasn't doped, it would have been an easy one for me to come in and go, oh, hang on, all these guys are on the gear. That's why I've never been good enough, despite working my ass off all of these years. And now that explains why everyone's so good. The thing is, in my own team, didn't see the slightest bit of evidence of it or anything talked about. And there's a lot of shit gets talked about because cyclists aren't the smartest about keeping things to themselves. But one, never did doping come up or having anyone done it. And then the other thing is not even rumors from other teams of, oh, I think this guy's on the gear or this guy's on the gear. Now, for me, the biggest deterrent, I guess, is firstly, a lot of people don't realize how much we get tested. So for me, I'm tested a tiny proportion of everyone else, but we have to allocate an hour every single day of our lives that the testers can come up to our door and test us. You have no control over which day of the year this will be or where you will be. So for me, I still shit myself that I've just had a random protein bar that might have been contaminated, or some melatonin that's been laced with something else. And it's still the scariest morning of my month when they show up to the door. I can't imagine what it would be like to be someone that is actually doping and have this consistent testing and never know if you're going to get popped. And then the other thing is that's obviously a massive deterrent. The biggest one, as you said, is the rumors and whispers within the peloton, and just how hard it would be to be able to do this behind closed doors. So these guys are away at altitude camps for so much of the year, away at races the rest of the year. There's media around, there's teammates around, there's rival riders around. If there was any chance someone was doing this, it just the social media, phones everywhere now. To be able to keep this stuff under wraps is honestly, I would say, impossible if he's doing it. And yeah, I just don't like the fact that your logic behind suggesting that someone is doping. It was the same with Vingegaard after the crazy good TT. It's just that they are much better than everyone else. Because yeah, I just don't see that as a reasonable way to accuse someone of doping or cheating, that they're much better than someone else. By all means, if there was any evidence that he was doping, then that provides reason to accuse someone of it. But there is absolutely none. It does sound like we've heard this kind of stuff before, but yeah, I just don't like the thought that someone can be a lot better than others, and that means that they're cheating. I wouldn't agree with that, and I'm someone that has raced against him many times.
Well, my other thing that I'd throw in is Van der Poel and Rickard were away. Their race was the second fastest. So that stage that Van der Poel ended up winning. Oh no, he got caught. Sorry, I think it was right at the end. Second fastest stage in Tour de France history. Those guys are out pretty much from the gun just by themselves. No one jumps up and says, oh, Van der Poel's doping, which, I mean, you see two guys going out, that's a superhuman effort, but no one's making those claims about that. It is just Pogacar, and it's just because he's so dominant. And I will be, if he is doping, I'll jump out and I'll be the first person to say, what an absolute dick, but there's nothing to suggest it at all. This is 100% just an unfounded rumor. The only thing that is determinative of that is the fact that he's getting incredible results. And if he was doping, other people would be doping, and if anything, the gap would be smaller. So he's either the only person in the peloton that is on the gear, or he's not.
Yeah. And I can see why. I think the reason it comes out in the Tour is because we get these seasonal cycling fans that will just jump in for July each year. And given that it's been 15 years now, well, just under 15 years since the most high-profile doping case ever came to light, but their experiences with the Tour de France, they don't watch that many other races. They jump in and go, this guy's so much better. I've seen this before. He's doping. But I think for the most part, the hardcore cycling fans aren't in the same camp. But yeah, like they've been going about it forever, and I'm sure we'll get the same. It's always the second rest day. You get the same questions. But yeah, I would just like to say that, yeah, like there is, from my experience within the peloton as well, and talking to these guys that are consistently racing against him on the same team as him, absolutely no rumors whatsoever that him or any of the top guys are doping, because it is just impossible at the moment these days.
So with that, let's move on from all of that speculation and stuff. Did you have a domestique of the day?
For me, like, for today, debatable, because he was not doing too much to help his team leader, but Tim Wellens, just the fact that he can be a domestique for nearly every day of the Tour so far, and then just randomly put his stage winning hat on and go out and pants everyone in the breakaway, just shows how lucky Pogačar is to have someone that good as his domestique.
Yeah, I had a couple. So Wellens I had penciled down. I also thought there was a point where it looked like Campenaerts was really sitting up to try and give a lead out to Wout van Aert, and so I had him penciled in. But then I had to rub it out when he just went off and attacked by himself. But my one was Alaphilippe for launching Stora, and it's sad that Alaphilippe also gets my dickhead of the day. But Alaphilippe has been, I feel like he's come to Tudor and it's his home race, and it seems like Alaphilippe is working to try and get Stora a stage win. And I think that's really cool from someone that has every right to be out there trying to get results for himself. That's why he's come to Tudor, but he seems to have really taken on the role of a mentor for Stora, and I think it's really cute. So Alaphilippe gets my domestique of the day today.
Yeah, well, he's going to win all three prizes in one day, because I'd give him the Lazarus of the day as well, because he looked like he looked like he broke his collarbone at the start of the race, and I thought, this is sad because he would have been a good one for breaks later in the week, and because I'd seen him helping Stora, helping the other riders in Tudor, just providing that experience, which, yeah, as you say, is cool, because often riders that are towards the end of their career get signed by a second division team. Most people assume they're going for the money. They're going to show their hand in one or two races throughout the year, and the rest of the time just pocket the paycheck. Whereas he seems like he's really been committed this year, really been committed to showing the other guys, and just prepared to, as we touched on yesterday, like, just when he's not the best guy in the team or not going amazing, he's happy to help out his teammates, which is really cool to see from a former world champion. And he was happy to do it again today. So yeah, and came back from his crash at the start, so he wins all three prizes today.
Yeah, he's got the same for me. I thought that was fantastic by Alaphilippe. Just, yeah, a bit of a shame about him coming across the line. That must be so embarrassing. It happens often.
I hope he owns it now and just says, I was happy with third. I think that's the best way to do it. So yeah, I was thinking about it as well. I thought, if I rolled Wout van Aert to third in a Tour de France, say 100% chance I'm saluting, even if I know it's third. For him, I'm going to assume I can't give him the benefit of the doubt, because he's won many stages before and many greater things than the third place in the Tour stage. But I hope he just comes out and owns it and says he was just happy with the third place.
But also for a team like Tudor, racking up these third places is a big result at the Tour de France.
For sure.
And it is for a dude like Alaphilippe, who hasn't honestly been showing the best form this Tour de France. I think he finished 50th yesterday, for example. I think getting a third place would be really good for his confidence, especially seeing as, he is our Lazarus Award for today.
Yep.
Do you have anything else you wanted to touch on before we wrap this up and I go to bed?
No, just it's really interesting that Stora is consistently up there every day and just hasn't been able to pull off the stage win or even getting that close to it. But I'd like to see him get a stage. Like, if I'm just looking at riders that deserve something in the last week, it would be Stora and Quinn Simmons for just throwing his hat in the ring every single day. He's just been rock solid in every breakaway and just hasn't come off for him. So I'd like to see those guys get rewarded for their hard work and be able to be fighting it out for the win at one of these stages in the final week.
100%. So we'll have to keep this minimum, but I do want to. There are people that are putting questions in on Instagram, so I do want to actually give them the air. Question 1 by Dennis Murphy is: Can Onley get the podium? I think no.
I also think no. I think he's riding well, but I think Lipovic looks more solid if he's okay after that crash today.
So the next one was: Do you think Pogačar wanted a breakaway to win yesterday? Is he trying to keep the peloton on side like Mikel Indurain? I don't think he wanted to keep the breakaway. I don't think he cared yesterday whether the breakaway won or not. I think he's pretty happy to have a slow day. As much as we talk about Poggy not feeling it, I reckon he must be. And I reckon he was just...
What he said and what they seem to be doing is, it sounds crazy, but they're not too worried about whether the break wins or not. They tend to just have their riders ride at their tempo throughout the day on those big mountain days. And if they catch the breakaway, fine, he races for the win. If the breakaway is strong enough to stay away, like only one of the riders was yesterday, then they fight for the win. So it seems like they're more in their routine of, okay, Pollitt rides his tempo until he's done, and then Yates rides his tempo till he's done. The order changes around a little bit each day, but that seems to be their tactic at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last one has to do with, I don't know if you saw the footage, unfortunately, because we do this so fast after, we don't get all of the social media stuff that pops up, but the Ineos team car went full NFL and ran it straight at a spectator yesterday, and that has been doing the rounds. And I think since then, they got a yellow card. I don't know what happens to a team card that gets a yellow card. Can a car get banned from the race for 7 days?
The car can get thrown out, but only if they get 2 yellow cards. So they'll just get a hefty fine. And then if they have any other yellow cards, they'll get thrown out of the race.
I've had a look at this because a lot of people have been sending me messages about it, asking. And I do actually agree that I think the car should have got the penalty on this one. I don't think the spectator was that close. I think we've had...
The only thing going for the car is he had motos on his left and then riders in front of him. Not too much room. I still think he can use his foot on the brake. Would have been the smart one there, going up the hill, not that quick to start with. Just to give the car the slightest cop out is that it is crazy hectic in those convoys. There's shit going on everywhere, especially when the crowd's all over the road. Yeah, bit unfortunate. I think it definitely was avoidable, but at the same time, like, he's been in that car for hours every single day, and you just shouldn't have to worry about people standing on the road during the race as well.
No, but it is a climb, and there are people on the road on it. Like, I don't know. I just, having a look at it, it looks bad for the team car. But you know what? A bit of a warning to the spectators. Hey, if you get on the road, you might get deleted by a team car. So maybe that will be what finally stops people sticking their arms out and filming and all of that stuff. So, I don't think the team car gets so the question was, should they get the dickhead of the day? And I think maybe that was one that we missed just because we go on straight after and it's hard to keep track of all of this stuff. So, yeah.
Yep. Well, if that's all our questions, is that all the questions
done?
So speaking of epic crowds, tomorrow we've got a rest day, so we're gonna chill out. I'm gonna go on a little mini bikepacking adventure. Aidan's just gonna have a 12-hour sleep there in Australia. But we are going to have massive crowds when we come back on Tuesday because we have an iconic climb for the Tour de France, Mont Ventoux. It's been a few years since we've seen it. They're going up from the Bedouin side, which I rode last year, and it is supposedly the hardest, and I would agree with that. It is pretty brutal, particularly the first half of this, but really boring stage up until then, I think. So you can probably set an alarm for this one if you're watching in Oz, or just actually do some of your work if you're working in Europe at this time, and then just tune in for the last hour, I'd say. But yeah, we're starting in Montpellier and then going to Mont Ventoux, 171 kilometers. The only climb, we have an intermediate sprint at 112 Ks in, and then the only climb of the day is the final climb, Mont Ventoux, which from this side is 15.6 kilometers of 8.7%. Aidan, do you think it will be a breakaway or peloton to win this?
I just don't see where the breakaway gets away unless someone, like, you know, there might not be the motivation. It is a hard one for a break to get away, and it certainly isn't a stage on profile that suits a break of climbers getting away. So I think we'll either see a big group, like where, you know, people have multiple people from teams involved, and, you know, potentially the climbers get away there. I think this is one for the GC group, though, and I think it's pretty, at the moment, it's getting pretty cliche, but it's Tadej Pogacar for me.
Yeah, I can't see anyone beating him if it is the GC group. I think the chance for the breakaway to go is just the fact that we've got some small roads through towns between 20 and 40 kilometers in, which it just takes a bit of, a few left and rights through a town, and then a gap to open up, and then a committed group to work away. It is going to be a really interesting one because we're likely to have some bigger guys in the break. And then if you're a small rider that knows how to follow a wheel, then it's the stage for you because you can sneak into that break and then be out there with a bunch of workhorses who will hopefully give you a big enough lead to stay away at the end. It's hard to pick a rider in that instance. I'm going to go with the guy I mentioned before. I think Storer has looked good on these flatter stages even and been able to get in a heap of moves. I think if he's able to get in a move with maybe a few teammates or just a group where he can play it a bit smarter and then save his energy for that final climb, I think he might have the legs to pull it off.
Yep. Well, I hope so, because I think he definitely deserves it. But yeah, it's a tough one because either a break gets away and then it could be any skinny bloke, or alternatively a break doesn't get away, in which case it's the one skinny bloke, I think. But yeah, the other one that I might, maybe too many Aussies here, but I think it could potentially be O'Connor, and who I'd love to see it being is Martinez.
Martinez would be so cool because he's been looking so good. I just can't see a situation where he gets in this breakaway unless he gets Mohoric or Fred Wright to quite literally push him into it, or he ties his handlebars to their seat post, because he is so small, and I don't know if he's got the watts to get into it on this terrain that we've got at the start, but it will be cool. I imagine that will be their tactic in the team bus, because if he gets in that breakaway, then he could pull off something special for the Frenchies. But yeah, it would be cool to see him get rewarded for his hard work, and after we ripped into him at the start of the tour, how he's turned it around since then. So he'd be a good one.
Totally. And with that, I'm going to go to bed. If over the next couple of stages I start looking less and less human, it's because I'm back to full-time work. I've been on school holidays, but yeah, I'm back to work from tomorrow. So I really need to go to sleep. And unfortunately, I think Cyrus is going to be doing the lion's share of the keeping up with the stages, and I'm going to be reading the live blog on Domestique. So with that, thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for listening if you're not watching. And yeah, get the questions in. I'll put in some more for stage 16.
Beautiful. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening.
See you, Cyrus.
See ya.